Back at you again with another one. Arsenal 1, Wolves 2 at the Emirates. You know what? I wouldn't say I'm quite shocked. If I'm honest with you, I think this result has been coming for quite some time. We go on about our defensive records. We're now on -2 goal difference. That's another loss. And ironically, we haven't won a single home game since the whole situation with Ozil being left out the squad. Not sure if that might be some sort of an issue between the players and Mikel himself. And if it is, then that's his own fault because, as he's come out and publicly said, he's taken that decision upon himself. But in terms of today's game, I thought throughout the whole game, pretty much, Wolves outdone us. We didn't look hungry. I mentioned again about the captaincy. Aubameyang was nowhere to be seen. I didn't see him sort of try and motivate the players. We looked done. I think the players as well, they looked done. The whole sort of body language. I don't think they're playing for Mikel Arteta anymore. I'm not sure if that's all stemmed from the whole Ozil situation and then a few man management situations. But I don't think the players from today's performance and recent performance, they don't trust the process. And I've always said, I don't trust in this process. Now, for me, I would rather Arteta or us go into the season with young players. Let it be a transitional season. Play the likes of Nelson, play the likes of Willock, Saliba, play the likes of Balogun, Emil Smith-Rowe, and ditch these guys who are error prone. They're not going to be here. For me, I'd rather sort of see the likes of Saliba come in and make mistakes because you know what? He's young. So what? Could we be really any worse than 14th position if Mikel Arteta played the whole youth? I don't think so personally. And what we've seen is we're constantly playing these guys like your Mustafis, your Kolasinac, Hector Bellerin, Granit Xhaka, who I thought was awful today. And the issue is, we all know these guys make the same mistakes over and over and over again. How many times are we going to see Mustafi sort of make defensive errors? Xhaka making errors. You know, Xhaka and the likes of Mustafi have been making these mistakes since 1925. Nothing's going to change. This is the thing. I'd rather see these young guys come in and let us just have a transition sort of season. Let us start fresh. Let us just play the youth and see what we could do. But let's get into some of the match stats here. So as I said, 2-1 and quite a convincing performance from Wolves. We had 56% possession and we only managed 2 shots on target. And we managed to create no shots on target in the second half. And that tells you everything you need to know about this current existing squad. We had in total 13 shots today, 11 shots. And I can't say it's enough. I know. And my biggest concern is come next weekend, we're going to go into the North London derby and absolutely get smashed. And for some people out there who still trust this process, who still, believe in Arteta, when is it time for you to say enough's enough? Because you can say what you like, speak about the personnels, but this is not the worst Arsenal squad in my sort of recent memories. I can remember when we had the likes of Denilson, the likes of Gel Clichy, Nicholas Bentner, Shamak, and we still managed to get Champions League. Pascal Segon, and who else was there? Squillaci, those sort of players there, Johan Juru. And we're really going to be sat here and say Mikel Arteta doesn't have decent players around him. You're talking about probably the most expensive attack in Europe with Aubameyang, Pepe, Lacazette. You're talking about a Swiss international captain, Granit Xhaka, even though I don't rate him. You're talking about all these international players, Kieran Tierney, Leno, Mohamed El Nene, who plays for the Egyptian national team, etc. Thomas Partey as well. He must be thinking, what the fuck did I do? Why have I come here? Why have I left Atletico to come to this shithole to be 14th? We've got the likes of Leeds United, Southampton, all these teams ahead of us. It's embarrassing. And for me, we need to stop making excuses because we're not a mediocre team. We're not West Ham. We're not West Brom. All due, respect to those clubs. We should be challenging for the highest honours. And I was sort of saying this to a few people. I remember back in the days, you could look at the fixture list, and the only team you were concerned with was perhaps, Manchester United, North London Derby, because that was a one-off, anomaly. Sorry, hard for me to sort of come out with those words. But other than that, you didn't really fear many teams. But nowadays, I look at the fixture list, I'm like, oh yeah, Wolves, that's difficult. Leeds United, that's difficult. Spurs, that's difficult. Why have we allowed our standards to drop so low? It's because we continuously make excuses for the club. And for those people who make excuses about Mikel Arteta and trusting the process, what you're doing is you're making excuses for the Kroenke, because what he is, he's become a shield for him, just like Wenger was. And we're referring back to the other situation. He has come out and said it's his. He's also from last season after the Villa game, when we had that sort of playing with a banner saying, back Mikel, Kroenke out. He come out and said, the board have my backings, and that's 100%. Trust me, I won't say if I didn't mean it. So he has to take all the criticism. So if he's become the shield for the Kroenkes, I think you have to sort of target him, break him down, and then go for the Kroenkes if he wants to be there and be a shield. Well, otherwise, he needs to, call a spade and say the Kroenkes aren't backing me. Anyways, let's get into the player ratings. Not that any of them really deserve any ratings from today's match, but we went for a 4-3-3 formation. So without wasting any time, Bernd Leno didn't do much. In terms of the second goal, I thought that ricochet, he could have done a lot better. I'm not expecting to catch it, but, push it away from danger. He does that too often. I've mentioned it too many times that he makes those mistakes. And in terms of distribution, in today's game's a bit better than usual, but it's still not quite there to that sort of level which I expect from a team that's challenging for top four. So my ratings for Bernd Leno today will be 6. Hector Bellerin, I think is poor. The only decent thing Hector Bellerin's done today was he got a yellow card, so he's now 1 game away from a suspension, and hopefully then we don't see Bellerin for quite some time. So Bellerin and that second goal, I watched, excuse me, I forgot the gentleman's name from Wolves who begins with P, when he just sort of ran past Bellerin. If you watch the video, what you'll see Bellerin and Holding, just watch them go by. The only defender in that penalty area which attempted to make a challenge for both goals was Gabriel. If you look at the first goal and the second goal, he's the only one that bothered doing something. The rest just sort of stood there, not bothered. And that, for me, sets a tone for how this club has regressed since, the Wenger era. It's just weak mentality, not bothered, don't care. Bellerin, for me, he gets a 4 only because in terms of his crossing, it was a lot better than usual. And he managed to deliver a few decent balls, like the Saka situation, which Saka missed out. I'm not sure how he did that. The Aubameyang's header towards the end on the second half. So Bellerin gets a 4 for me. David Luiz, unfortunate to get in that collision. However, he didn't do much. I wouldn't say he was really at fault for the first goal, but he gets a standard 5. Gabriel, the only player that actually tried today. For me, he was our best defender. Not only our best defender, I think I'd go on as far as to say he was our best player today. So Gabriel, for me, including his goal, he gets a 7. And I just think we need 11 more Gabriels on that field. And I'm just sort of tired of seeing Gabriel with the likes of Luiz and Holding next to him, who continuously drag him down. And then they make him look like a bad defender. And what I mentioned, that analogy last week, if you take a healthy orange, you place it next to a one that's decaying, within a few minutes, the one that's healthy will die out as well. And that's what happens. You put Gabriel, a star like him, next to guys like Holding, Luiz, eventually his performances will drop as well. And that's why I'm, pushing the boat on guys like William Saliba to come in, who's not been given the opportunity. And from what I've seen from Saint Etienne last season, he looks pretty decent. And if you watch the under-23s as well, the other day, the powerful run he made out, which passed on to Miguel Aziz, and we got the goal. Why can't Mikel Arteta just say, you know what, let me just entrust the youth? I don't think us fans will get on his case or get on his back if he was to play the youth. And we were sat 14th. We can't really be any worse than where we are at the moment. So for me, Gabriel, as I said, man of the match, and Kieran Tierney, he showed a lot of drive, a lot of passion, but defensively wasn't the greatest. But he did sort of bomb up and forward a few times, but not really an inspiring performance by Kieran's standards. So he gets a 6 for me. Moving on to the midfield, which I thought was the worst part for us today's game. Granit Xhaka being the biggest example. He's so poor. He's so lazy. He just looks like he doesn't care. I'm not sure what's going on between him and Mikel, but it just looks like that hunger that Mikel instilled in him last season when he sort of fell out the squad seems to have gone. He just seems like he doesn't care. So too many loose balls as well from Granit Xhaka. He probably the worst, as I said, the worst performer on the pitch today. He gets a 3 for me. So Bios, he tried a few times, but the thing is, he does create a few times, but then he goes missing in patches as well. But I can't really blame Ceballos, so I'm going to give him a 5. Willock, see, the thing about Willock, you watch him sometimes and you think, oh, this guy's shit. What does he do? He hangs on to the ball far too long. And then, when he makes those runs, you think, yeah, Willock, that's it. He's just like the biggest enigma that I know in football. So he's based on sort of hot and cold. I'm going to give him a 5 as well. Moving up top, if we're sort of going to be honest, and as much as I love Saka, I have to be real. He should have got that goal in, that Bellerin crossed in. I was thinking to myself, if Martinelli was on the back of that, that was in 100%. That was in. So why shouldn't I expect the same of Saka if they're both the same age and we both rate him really highly as the best of our youngsters? So he doesn't get a pass for me. Overall play today a bit poor. He gets a 5 because he didn't make too many mistakes, which which cost the team. Moving on to Aubameyang, he was not really effective. I think in terms of his stats in the first half, he only had 8 touches. That says a lot. Aubameyang's just not been really effective. I'm not sure with the time he had on that left where we won't do it much, if that's taken a lot out of him, not only physically but mentally. He just gone through that period without scoring goals, and now he's just doesn't have that confidence. It might be maybe worthwhile looking at playing Aubameyang on Thursday night against Rapid Vienna, banging a goal or two, get his confidence. But the decent thing is, though, since moving on to the middle, despite him not having many shots or not getting many of the ball, he has looked more dangerous. So when I sort of mentioned the header he had on the second half, had he buried that, would be sort of speaking a different game today. So he's getting into the areas which he wasn't sort of doing when he was out on the left hand side. So I reckon it's only a matter of time. I really hope Mikel Arteta is not stubborn, and then come next game against Spurs, he puts him out on a wing again, and then he's ineffective. So Aubameyang, for me, based on his performance, he gets a 4. Not that great. Willian, at times he looked pretty decent. I thought he picked up his game in the second half. First half, he just didn't look really interested. So Willian, for me, gets a 6. Moving on to the subs, Rob Holding, who came on for David Luiz, who I'm not sure to the extent of his injury, how bad that's going to be, if he'll be fit for the North London derby. But I'm hoping it's not. It didn't seem to be too much because it seemed like a cut and he continued on. So, but in terms of Rob Holding, I've always said it, I'm not a fan. I don't think Rob Holding should ever play as a starter for Arsenal. In terms of squad depth, absolutely, yes, he can be in our sort of bench. And if we need him in terms of injuries, etc., yeah, bring him on. But I hate the idea of having Rob Holding, and I hate the idea of Mikel Arteta continuously entrusts him, and he continuously just sort of he flops him. He fails Mikel Arteta constantly. Like that second goal I mentioned, he just sort of watched the guy run past him, and Bellerin just sort of looked at each other like, yeah, mate, go, yeah, score. You deserve one. For me, he's not good enough. I just think he's so poor. He's just very slow. He just turns so slow. He's like, when you're watching, what's it called? I'm trying to think. That movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I forgot what it's called now. But whatever it's called now, where Terminator, that's the one. Holden reminds me of Terminator, the way he moves, so slow. Yeah, he's just poor for me, not good enough. I hate the fact that Gabriel has to partner with him. I just think, honestly speaking, Gabriel deserves so much better. Holden for me gets a 4. I think the second goal, as I mentioned, he had a massive part to play in that, and he just didn't look interested in getting his body on the line. Reece Nelson came on, and he tried. He ran out a few players, but didn't have much time to affect it. He gets a 5. Laka didn't have much time as well. He came on pretty late. He gets a 5. That's my match review. I think I've come to the point where it's done now. Mikel has to go. We can't be sat here making excuses. As I said, you can speak about personnels, but this Arsenal team's not that bad if you're going to be honest with yourself. If you're going to be sat here looking at the league table and say this Arsenal squad should be sat 14th, then you're delusional. We should, by the standard of the squad that we have and the depth that we have with players returning as well, we're easily a contender for top 6. So the fact that we're here, we're playing, very boring defensive football, he has to go. And for me, North London derby, I think that's just going to be the icing on the cake, because there's no way we're going to go there and come out with a result. Absolutely not. This is the first time in my lifetime that I'm going into a North London derby with Spurs as league leaders. Let that sink in. Anyways, thank you for listening. Take care.